Okay, this is the one right here. This is the one you've all been waiting for. Okay, so today I'm going to be discussing a bunch of things. Well, the first thing I'm going to discuss is the flesh. What I think the flesh is, and I may not say all of it right now, but that's probably because you guys will ask more questions that'll give me a more specific thing to say specifically to you so that there's no longer any frustration or confusion about this topic. The flesh. Here's what I think are the concepts maintaining the flesh: protection, nurturing, opportunity, forgiveness, and understanding, and perhaps cooperation, but I think that can be combined with forgiveness and understanding. So here's the thing. In order to have protection, you must participate in protecting. You must give. In order to have it, you must give it. And that applies to everything. In order to have nurturing, which is the ability to learn, not just to be as you are right now, but to be developed, to learn more, to know more so that you can be better, live better, do better. In order to have that, you must also participate in it. In order to have opportunity, which is like, fair job, fair life, all that stuff, you must also help participate in creating fair opportunities for others. In order to have forgiveness, which is honest mistakes that you make not knowing better, all that stuff, you have to also give forgiveness, participate in forgiveness, which is nurturing, protection, and understanding. In order to have understanding, in which you will understand who you are well enough to treat you specifically as you are, you must also understand others enough of what they are in order to treat them as they are. Now, the way these correlate with the physical body, opportunity can directly be correlated with birth. Nurturing can be correlated with parenting. Protection, society, meaning the laws, society, laws, and all that stuff. Understanding is school, which can also be combined with nurturing, peers, cooperation, all that stuff. And then forgiveness, which is no one's perfect in this illogical state. So in order for us to get along, we have to work through the problem instead of just killing each other every second. These are the arguments that I call the flesh. If you violate any of these, if you don't allow protection, if you don't allow nurturing, if you don't allow opportunity, if you don't allow forgiveness, if you don't allow understanding, then conceptually speaking, it does not need to be allowed to you. It does not need to be allowed to you in any way. And here's how it works. If there is any time that you unjustly violate one of these basic fleshes and anyone else's, it creates an insecurity in your own existence that allows for people to violate your flesh. Meaning, if you don't follow these rules and maintain these systems of respecting these things, giving so that you can get, then because you're not giving or because you violated someone else's ability to get, you are now never getting it again or not getting it for a long time, and now in a higher state of physical pressure that can lead to your physical death, your flesh death, if you will. Now, that's very simple. It sounds short. I'm not trying to overwhelm you. I'm just trying to get the information in your head now so that you can just respond to it and understand it. I think I'm turning the page the wrong way. Yeah, I'm turning the page wrong. Okay, here we go. Oops. Okay, so here's this. So outside of the concept of flesh, which is what connects every animal, every being, every person, regardless of who they are, regardless of whether they're male or female, regardless of anything that they do, believe in, and all that stuff. Those are the arguments that connect us all. Now, there's also the concept of men and women and all the other genders, but I really don't care about that discussion. I really think that whole thing is just a strategy for trying not to be comprehended or defined so that you can do whatever you want outside of the rules of all that stuff. So here's the thing. We have the concept of men and women, boys and girls. Now, while all these groups have their own category of concept, we treat boys a little differently than we treat men, and we treat girls a little differently than we treat women, and we treat both sexes just a little differently according to their physical traits or whatever, right? So here's what I think happens. It's not what I think happens, it's what happens. If any incident or situation or argument threatens the existential security of the concept of boys, of men, then all males and all men are forced to respond and defend themselves in one way or another. And the same thing applies to women. If any incident or situation or argument threatens the existential security of the concept of females, then all females are forced to respond to the concept in order to defend themselves. And this can apply to race, ethnicity, gamer, weeaboo, sports fan. This can apply to all of those things. Everyone is participating in some sort of concept that they defend in order to have the right to keep participating in it and to protect their right to participate in it. and to have their rights while they do it, right? Okay, now here's how all that works. There is a shared existence between all of us. And even though we have our own individual personal experience that seems to separate existence just a little bit, this is working according to our conceptual response. Imagine these as concepts that you have to respond to in order to give this existence a understanding of who you are and what you want and what you're doing, so that it can give you a specific response based on how you're responding to the environment, how you're responding to what's possible. How you respond to what's possible directly affects what's possible for your experience. And so while this person has their own experience, this person with different selections, different responses, different opinions, different ideas, has their own experience. And even though they both have their own personal experience, it is held together and hosted by the same conceptual rules that make existence a shared thing between all of us. Now, it works somewhat like this. There are millions of people, tons of people, all participating in this shared existence. And what that creates is a shared host reaction in which one person can do something that affects everybody else's existence within the shared host. Meaning, if I move this water bottle and you're watching me and hold on, no, if I move this water bottle right here, you will also see me move that water bottle right there, because we're both experiencing and sharing the same reality. Now, this seems like a simple explanation, but I always have to use simple ones to grasp you. This goes on into other stuff. If I set fire to a forest over here, the people around me will hear about a fire that got started in the forest, stuff like that, shared experience. And this goes even further into higher levels of thinking, such as what's possible. And a lot of what happens to prevent possibility is that a concept is denied over here that seems like it won't affect any other thing, but denying this concept actually held together a lot of the other things that you wanted to do. But I gotta make another video for that. My whole point being that as you participate in this shared host of reality, what you do to it affects everyone else, is communicated to everyone else. Everyone experiences it in some small way. It is communicated to them. Everything that you're contributing to it affects everyone else. They're all responding. We are all responding to each other's concept of existence in order to survive. We are all responding to each other's actions, thinking, form possibility, thoughts on possibility, what we all expect to be possible, we're all responding to it. Somebody says, I'm going to be rich over here. Somebody else says, that's impossible. Everyone wants to be rich. What makes you different? All that stuff, all that dumb stuff, right? Okay, now here's what happens. Here's what happens. There are people who are not thinking that much and just responding to what physically happens. And so their concept of response is this small, this limited. Whereas there are other people who are thinking about it, always observing it, and so their concept of response is this big. Now, what this means is they have a greater effect on the shared host. Their actions, their thoughts, their thinking, their contributions have a greater reach of physical concept, of physical reality, that it overpowers theirs and occurs more than theirs. This person can occur more than everyone else because they make more sense. And they even go on to make sense of things that these people aren't even taking in and considering. And so these people are forced to respond to these people as a result. Okay, now this is where I come in. This is where I come in. This is where I say that all of you know who I am. So I have challenged the shared host severely, causing a ton of frustration, a ton of confusion, and a ton of fear. Existential insecurity for the entire thing. I've even gone as far as to claim in some cases that it doesn't actually exist in the way that it think it does. What I've done is I've used so much concept, so much rule, and so much explanation of possibility and why things are possible that I have gone outside the reach of the shared concept that we all experience. My concept, my explanation makes sense, and it makes sense outside of shared common reality. Meaning, as a group, everyone pieces together what's possible, and it's this big. But me on my own have managed to piece together possibility this big, and so it confuses and shatters the groups. And so what happens is I've experienced separated importance, which is just isolation. I'm isolated. There are attempts to silence me in order to cool this frustration and this confusion. There are attempts to criminalize me and humiliate me so that that can be used as an excuse to silence me. And even that, hold on, naturally, I remember what that was. It looks like natural. That natural caution. Okay, it looks like this says natural caution to high irrational thought. I doubt I needed to explain. Okay, let's just consider this. Let's consider this the argument. Yeah, but I still don't understand because he didn't say something. I must have needed to understand that, and that's why I don't agree with this. So let's just consider that that's what that is. My handwriting isn't bad. I just don't fucking like you. So now, all of this combined, we have the concept of flesh, which is what we're doing right now. And the way the concept of flesh works is that it can perform in two ways. It can perform at the level that it's just what's happening, or it can perform at the level that it's happening, but there are a bunch of concepts that are hosting and making it possible. Now, what you guys do in order to avoid me is you just say that this is the only thing that's happening. You pretty much dismiss all concept. And so you all know who I am and what I do and how important this is, but flesh, what you guys are doing right now, avoids it and won't admit it. Now, before I explain that, I have to explain something else. We can all see, physically see, an object in front of us, but without a concept of understanding, we cannot organize and understand these objects within a concept of placement, a concept of what they're doing, why they're there, what they are, how to identify them. And so that means that even though we can physically see, that a lot of seeing is conceptual. It's not just about seeing something in front of you, it's about understanding in concept what it is. S-Seth, I should say S-Seth here. And so, in order to bring this together, we're not just seeing what's physical, we're seeing the concept of what it is as well. And it's this form of thinking, this realization that allows me to respond to things before I see them, because I'm also seeing the concept of everything that's happening at the same time. Okay. I really want this. What else would I need to say? Okay, isolation. I would have said isolation. I would have said is that natural efforts to avoid or stop me. Natural efforts, whatever. A natural caution, the high irrational thought seems to make sense, even though it's not what I originally intended. Let's go this way. Okay, now I'm just going to describe all of the concepts that you guys use in flesh strategy to avoid admitting that you all know me. Now, I can use the argument that even if you don't know my name, even if you don't know my face, you have actively responded to my contribution to shared reality, because my contribution to shared reality has gone as far as to say that this shared reality is not possible and to make sense of it, which threatens your flesh and makes you all irrational. Okay, so here are the arguments you guys use. Here are the little strategies. First, in order to keep this up, this little irrational chunk of meat that's in the way of what I want and who I am and all this stuff, you guys say, what are you talking about? But then you don't listen to the answer. This argument is, if he doesn't know that we know, if he doesn't know that we heard, then he can't hold us accountable for it. He can't make us agree with something if we don't know that it makes sense. And so what are you talking about destabilizes every structure I present and says that I need to explain it from the beginning. And when I try to explain it from the beginning, you break it, you disturb it, and you prevent it from being understood so that you don't have to be held accountable. And you can pretend that you don't understand and therefore justify a victim plea at the dead end of this irrational flesh. Meaning whenever this irrational flesh becomes hard to live, toxic, whenever it crashes, you can all cry and say life isn't fair because you don't know better. But as I've done, I've made it so that you've had too many opportunities to know better. And so at this point, there's nothing I can do to keep forgiving you. I can't keep saving you. Another thing you guys do is natural avoidance. That's the isolation. That's the whole strategy of pretending you don't know me and what's going on, physical and logical. You want to avoid the logic. So what are you talking about? I don't understand. That doesn't make sense to me. What do you mean? You know, I don't understand that stuff. And also, if he doesn't know that we heard him, if he doesn't know that we can understand him at this point, he can't hold us accountable. That's physical, logical avoidance. Also, telling me to prove, and then no matter how much I say, saying that you still don't understand it or that you still disagree, even though you can't explain why you disagree or how it even makes sense to disagree with this. This argument is also falling into the category of if he doesn't know we know, or that we heard him, that we also came to the same logical conclusion, then he can't hold us accountable. And so that's all that is. Pretending I'm crazy, but that's what are you talking about is. Pretending I'm crazy is what are you talking about? And then ethical concept. That's when you guys try to make me a criminal, a creep, a pervert, a rapist, a killer, a thief, a racist, a sexist. It's when you guys try to make me all of those concepts that you don't, because if you make me these concepts, then you don't have to respect or listen to anything I have to say, and thus can avoid logical conclusion. Oh, and then there's the, you still said something wrong, and so I don't understand because you know you said that wrong, and therefore it's justified for me to not understand it, or it's reasonable for me to understand it, but it isn't, because it's caused by you not wanting to understand. So yeah, a lot of this is figured out. So at this point, people are going to say this video didn't do anything. People are going to say that it didn't change anything. They're going to say that they didn't watch it. But at this point, my influence is so powerful that you don't even need to watch this video. In fact, I could really just think this stuff and you would be affected by it. It would just scramble the whole shared model. But this is a more focused effort. It helps me organize these ideas, helps me put them in a presented form, a compact form, so that you guys can comprehend them. And so what's going to happen at this point is you guys are going to try harder to draw me out into looking crazy. You guys are going to try and be like, if you really believe that, then why don't you go outside and argue with one of us until we admit it? But you guys just aren't going to admit it, and you're going to create a criminal image, which is he's either crazy or he's harassing people, he's gone insane, all that stuff. And I'm not stupid. I know what you're doing. So the other thing that's going to happen is as you guys fall apart and as you break, some of you are going to admit that I have it, and the ones of you that won't will start creating hectic chaos and pain and all this stuff in order to scare people. But that'll be so compact and will run out. And so at this point, I'm already headed towards fame. I'm already headed towards success. And anyone who denies that at this point is going to fall into that irrational mass that I'm pretty much just going to have to like rip off like a flesh band-aid. Okay, thank you guys for watching.